Hi guys, and welcome back to Internet Therapy, the podcast where we talk about important topics, issues, share personal stories, and just open up a safe space for discussion. For those of you who may not know me or who are new to listening to this, hi, my name is Maria-Elisa Carleton. I'm a small content creator in London, and I just wanted to create this podcast series to sort of talk about things that aren't necessarily talked about enough. In today's episode, I wanted to share my story of how I realised that the university degree that I was studying wasn't for me, and also talk about sort of societal pressures that are put upon us to study at university. Now, I've always grown up knowing that I wanted to go to university, but I feel like that idea has always been planted in our heads. Like, the basic sort of thing was that we'd go to school to study, and then we'd study our A-levels, and then we'd go into university, and then after university we'd go straight into a job, we'd get married, we'd have kids, and we basically had our life mapped out for us. And that's not to say that that's wrong. People still have those aspirations to those days, and at the end of the day, whatever your aspiration, whatever your dream, follow it, chase it, live it, breathe it, do what you have to do in life. But I genuinely feel that university was one of the things that was expected of me. It wasn't necessarily pressured, it wasn't necessarily forced upon me. Like, obviously I still had the option to do other things. It was just one of these expectations where it was like, oh yeah, you're going to university, like, start thinking of university, start thinking of places you want to study. And obviously for me, as someone who was passionate about acting and drama and theatre, I knew I wanted to go into university, specifically a drama school, and study to become a famous actress in theatre. But I do feel that especially the school system, they tend to focus on university. They tend to focus on, get your UCAS application form filled out, get your form registered and all that sort of stuff, get yourself put on there, and start choosing a university, visit universities, shortlist them, all of these sorts of things. And they didn't really focus on the other options, like taking a gap year and having an apprenticeship. That's not to say they weren't mentioned, they just weren't the sole focus. It was you had to physically go to a teacher and talk about it yourself, whereas in the curriculum you were taught university life, like the basics of cooking, cleaning for yourself, ironing. Like, we were taught the little bits of basics, including budgeting, though not very well, because I didn't budget very well in my university life, but that's a completely other story. So I was very, very passionate about theatre and acting, and obviously I went on a lot of auditions, and I didn't get into a lot of my dream places. Now, the problem with me is that I have tunnel vision when it comes to a lot of university places. I already envisage myself going to these places before I've even seen them, before I've even had the audition. I sort of go, oh my god, I can see myself here, and then when I don't get in, it sort of hurts a little bit more than if I wasn't so invested. I had a lot of rejections, and I went through a lot, and one of my sort of last options and last resorts was the University of Chichester, which I got into, and it was an experience, and it taught me a lot. And that's not to say that university is bad. I just want to make a quick disclaimer of the lecturers were fantastic. The curriculum was amazing. All the people that I was with were so supportive and so talented, and they're just going to be incredible, theatre makers and actresses, and I cannot wait to see them succeed. But it just turned out to be something that I didn't want to do in the end, and that's natural. That happens. Sometimes something that you've chased and you followed for years just becomes something that you no longer want, and that's perfectly okay. Like, that's part of life. So when I started at the University of Chichester, I was very much excited and passionate about acting. I was so ready for the course. Like, I literally had all the books I was reading, I was invested in it, And then in about my second semester, I started to feel a little bit less excitement. I started to feel a little bit more stress and anxiety. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I was not looking forward to my lessons, and I put that down to we were doing a module that wasn't really of my interest. Like, it didn't really interest me, and it wasn't what I had envisaged, and that's not to say I wasn't giving it a go. It was just turning out to be something that I didn't like as much as I had initially thought I would. And that was the same for many people. A lot of people just didn't like the module and they struggled with it, and I just thought, oh, it's a normal thing, we're all going through it. But those feelings started to grow a lot more, to the point of, by the end of my first year, I was like, I don't want to do anything theatre or acting related over summer unless it's quite literally for my work, because otherwise I will begin to hate it. So I just sort of took a much needed break from it, and I just didn't focus as much on theatre and acting. And then when second year came around, sure enough, when I started, I was really excited about it again. I was like, oh, I'm just going through that slump. I was just feeling down, and I was feeling a little bit stressed, and obviously it was my first year of university, everything's new, you've got yourself living alone, responsibilities, you have to cook for yourself, clean for yourself, and it was just a little bit of extra responsibility. My excitement lasted for about 2 weeks, and then the dread started to build up. I wasn't excited for the lessons. I didn't have that same passion. When I performed on stage, it was basically like I was going through the motions, and I just wasn't interested in it. I'm so used to getting like a performance buzz out of everything, and I just didn't feel that. I didn't feel passionate about what I was creating. I started to get lazy and resentful, and I started to not want to do my work and didn't have a passion or love for it anymore. And I think I knew then that acting wasn't for me, but I just didn't want to admit it, and it caused a lot of friction, and it caused a lot of resentment, and essentially I was very unhappy. I was in a really bad place where I knew that the course wasn't for me and there was the option to change, but I was scared of that change. I was scared to pursue something else because I genuinely believed that if I did, my love for acting would come back and I'd be stuck. There was also the option of moving on to a different course and not enjoying it, and then being like, well, what was the point of that? So it was stressful, and it was a really tough time for me, and I started to get really emotional and upset, and I started to just go into my shell and isolate myself a lot. And then third year came around, and it was one thing in particular that made me realise how much I didn't want to do it. And that was, as part of our curriculum, we had to set up a Spotlight account. And for those of you who don't know, any actors create a Spotlight account, and it basically shows all the work they've done, all the work they've been in. We create show reels and all that sort of thing. And we share it with agents, and that's how we get agents, and that's how we get management, all that sort of thing, and that's the gateway into the acting world. And we had to pay like 120 quid for it, and obviously because it wasn't seen as an educational thing by our university. Like, there was the option for a bursary for it, but unfortunately that bursary didn't cover it, and that wasn't great, so it would have to come out of our own pocket. And I was working at the time, I had a job, I had the money, like, that was not a problem, but in my heart I didn't want to spend that money. And I kept thinking of how, like, my 11-year-old self, who was passionate, who loved acting more than anything, she wouldn't have spent any time thinking about it. I probably would have picked up extra shifts, I would have paid it instantly, even if it put me in debt, I would have done it. But I was having all these thoughts, and I was like, I don't want to. I feel like it's a waste of money. And in that moment, I knew that acting wasn't for me. And obviously, as part of the curriculum, I had to do it, or I had to give a valid reason why I didn't want to. And after a discussion with my dearest family and everything, I told my tutor that acting wasn't for me anymore and I didn't want to do it, and that was why I wasn't going to be paying the money for the Spotlight account. And it was a very isolating feeling. It's a very awful feeling when you realise that something you've pursued for years just isn't for you anymore. I had spent years of my life pursuing this thing that I'd wanted. Like, I wanted to be an actress. I didn't care what happened or how I did it. I envisaged myself being on that stage and performing, and that's what I wanted to do with my life. And then for that to sort of disappear and to turn into something that I hated, that was like heartbreaking. I put so much money, effort, time into pursuing this dream, and what was it for? Like, I'd even endured bullying because it was what I wanted to do, and people were telling me I'd never amount to anything, and now it felt like they were being truthful and they had been trying to warn me all this time, because look, I didn't want to do acting anymore. Like, they were right. I wasn't going to amount to nothing because it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And it felt awful, and I felt so heartbroken. But equally, when I sent that email, when I was honest, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulder, and I felt free, because as cliche as it sounds, whilst that door was closing, another one was opening for me, and there was so much freedom and excitement of what's going to happen next, what am I interested in next, what do I visualise myself doing next. And obviously I had so much support from everyone about it. Like, people were recommending things to me, my peers were telling me jobs that I could get into post-university. They were saying, look into this, look into that. And it was just so helpful. And my teachers were constantly saying, oh, we want you to be assistant director for this, or giving me that option to find different roles apart from acting. But it was genuinely heartbreaking and really, really tough. And as well as that, I felt a lot of guilt for my family, because obviously here I was, I'd sacrificed quite a lot to pursue the dream of acting, and so had my family. Like, my mum had taken me to all different sorts of places for auditions, and taken time to take me to that, and obviously she was happy to do it. She wanted to help me pursue my dream, and she still does. But it's also that guilt of, like, it feels like it was wasted. It feels like, I wasted people's time and effort and all the work that they had put into me, and I felt so much guilt because of it. And I know now that that's just the process you go through, and at the end of the day, had I not gone through all this, I wouldn't know. Like, had I not been honest, I would still be stuck in something that I didn't want to do. And that's worse than being honest and spending some time to figure out what it is that I want to do now. So, to anyone who is going through that, is that course right for me, and you feel like you're stuck in a rut, and you do feel like deep down in your gut the course that you dreamt of studying isn't what you want to do anymore, talk to someone. I didn't talk to people. I closed myself off and sort of went through the process myself. And I feel like it would have been so much help if in that first year I'd gone to someone and said, look, I'm having these feelings, I'm having these thoughts, this is how I feel about my course. And they could have supported me and helped me a lot sooner than, my third and final year when I can't really change anything. Because there is always support at every single university, whether it's your favourite tutor, your academic advisor, or just generally the support and well-being team at your university. Just go and have a conversation with them, and also go and have a conversation with the careers advisor that I'm pretty sure every single university has, because they're there to help you. All these people want the best for you and want you to get the best experience out of university that you can get. And there are so many other options. Like, there was the option to change course, there was the option to, leave university, and obviously people did, and I think part of the reason why I didn't want to was because it was like, oh, the student debt, all this, all that, I'd have to pay the course fees, it just would become an absolute disaster. But I feel like if I had changed, I would have been a lot happier. But then I can't live in regrets because I've met so many incredible people because of university. I've met friends, family, I've, been in relationships because of university, and I have no regrets for my whole experience. And if anything, having this has helped me to grow up and realise that sometimes things don't go your way, but that's perfectly alright. But I feel like it would have been so much healthier, and I would have been in such a better place if I just talked to someone before and had that support throughout with my decision. And I also feel like there's so much pressure with university. There's all this pressure of, it's 3 years of your life that you have to go, you have to do this, you have to do that, and that's not the case at all. Sometimes you go to university and you realise it's not the right fit, and it is perfectly alright for you to go, do you know what, it's not the right fit, I'm not happy here, I need to go home and rethink what I want to do with my life. You do not have to go to university at the age of 18. You can go to university at any age, you can go and study at any age you like. Like, just because you don't study the right course now doesn't mean that you can't go to university again and study the course of your dreams, or, do a foundation course or anything. There are so many options available to you, so make sure that you research those options and make sure you know you want to go to university, and not because it's expected of you or because you want to keep in family tradition. Just make sure that you're doing what makes you happy, what you want to do, and know that even if things don't go right, it's not the end. It's the beginning of a new and exciting adventure. And although I'm still not entirely sure what I want to do with my life, the best part of it is there's so much out there for me to choose from. There's so much for me to discover, to see. I'm still so young, and there's so much opportunity for me still out there. So make sure that you follow your dreams and you work hard, but you also realise that sometimes things don't work out, and sometimes that's actually a blessing in disguise, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. So with that said, if you guys have any questions or queries, or if you want to share your experiences, you can always find me on Twitter at Maria-Elisa Carleton, which stands for YouTube, or you can find me on my YouTube channel, Maria's Dreams and Rambles. And hopefully this podcast has helped you a little bit with thinking about university. Obviously, all of these opinions are my own. This is my own experience. I don't mean to influence anyone. This is just food for thought, as you would say. And I really hope you enjoyed listening. Stay awesome, stay inspired, keep chasing your dreams, keep working hard, and love life. Be happy. See you on the flip side, and I can't wait to open a discussion with you guys. Bye for now.